because what has happened till now, nobody was sure about that yet. So what I've done is I've gotten few pointers that would help us in creating a plan that people should have when we're returning to a workplace. All right. So I've broken into three pieces. I said, what should our return to workplace plan include? That means as a HR professionals or as leaders, what is that we should have in a plan when we are opening up partially on the second, right? And then the second very important question that when I talk to the HR community, we talk to our partners and all, is how do we keep the employees engaged during this time? Because the human touch, the physical touch, the traditional way how we were handling all the years or all the living life of ours is just gone out of our hand. And we're seeing a very different world today where things are not the same. And that's an important question. And third is how could we do this with the technology? Because without technology, doing all this would be impossible. As we're working remotely, you need connectivity, you need tools, you need leadership academies, you need to do virtual inductions. So all this has to take care. And I will also touch a little bit on technologies, some technology partners, and how these things will work out or play out. So as we all are, or I always say the repopulation, the term that we use, the repopulation of the workplaces, that is we're repopulating ourselves, going back to offices. And when we are going back offices, it's not the same thing. We have different priorities now. The priorities was different. Before the priority was we all have to reach the office. We reach on time. Are we punctual? Are we able to meet the targets? Now the priority changes entirely different. The first priority comes is about the health. How do we take care of our assets? That's our employees. That's the priority, the first priority that comes in. Then what kind of policies and practices should we do around the social distancing? I mean, being social human being, the very important essence of us was able to communicate in person and getting things done. So how does that change? How does the social distancing will happen? What policies we do? How do we maintain hygiene? I mean, these 2 months actually have taught all of us how to do hygiene, but from a company perspective, how do we make sure our employees feel that the cleaning, the hygiene, and everything is taken care and the environment is in place, right? How do we take care of occupancy? So this is a work written plan that we all are looking into to create something, to have something. So I'll try to help with what I think are the most common things that people are talking about and want some kind of answers. Okay, so let me start with the very first thing. The very first thing, I think the most primary I feel is today the morale of the employee is at the lowest. And the employee needs to be reassured. And to do that, the biggest thing we need is a communication tool apart from who's communicating. So a very important role of the HR, the leadership comes in place where we need to make sure we are able to reassure the employee in a lot of aspects. I mean, this basic, a lot of employees have a fear of losing a job. Second, employees don't know where this is going. The employee is not sure whether he can work remotely, and if he can't work, what does happen? So I've spoken to leaders, HRs, employees, everybody, so they're all confused because none of them know how it's going to play out. But that is when the leadership comes in place. That's when the HR comes in place where they take a step and they said, okay, now this is the time for communicating. This is a time to be transparent. This is a time to be open. When people are not physically present, they're working remotely, that's when the transparency, the leadership, the time to take the stage comes in. So for me, the primary thing that your plan should include is how do we communicate in terms of what we're doing, how we're going, how we're going to flow it out. So how do you do that in person? And then how do you do it remotely? Because I'm sure we all can't go to office straight away on the second. So what happens to the balance people? How do they know what's going to happen? So do we have a good communication tool, not just Zoom or something, because that's only a webinar, but a tool which has a continuity, tool which has action, the tool which gets people engaged, involved, right? So very first important topic would evolve around how do we reassure our employees? So that should be the very first thing in your bag for when you're making a return to workplace plan. Second would be okay, now we've got this plan in place, we got the second date, we're opening up. How do I maintain a social distancing, right? What percentage to do? How do I calculate the percentage of people? How do I calculate? The simple formula we use is you leave a distance X between the person Y. Fine, that's all still manual, but are there tools which can actually help us in terms of shift patterns, rotating shifts, and making sure all this happens through a tool rather than you doing it manually? Rather, you're choosing and picking, okay, this is what we think is going to happen. Because this is something which is not going to go away within 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, because nobody knows how it's going to play out. So it's very important what tool you have in terms of planning how your staff is going to be in the office and how you're going to maintain the social distancing in terms of split shifts, in terms of rotating days and weeks, how you, when you're directing employees to the office, how you direct them to the safer spaces to work, how it is all clean and things like that. So you would need a tool to do that. All right. The other compliances, which would be what does MOM has for us to do. MOM also wants to us to take care of a few things, like they want the safe entry to be implemented, the temperature to be taken, and all this information to be kept so that they can also do a social tracing. Now, again, for this, we have to ask questions. Do we do this manually? Do we maintain Excel to do that? Or are there tools out there which could actually do all these things so that you can focus on the other things like communication, things like social distancing, things like training, education, retraining, reskilling, right? So there are technology and tools available. Probably as I start finishing my presentation, I'll explore a few opportunities where I can show you what are available and what can be used. All right. So once we have done the basic return to office plan in terms of things, then the second important thing is how do we engage our employees? In today's world, engaging employee is the toughest thing, right? And there's a big world which talks about engaging the existing employees. And if you're able to engage your employees about 70 to 80% of the work done, then actually you don't need to hire more people. So that's a lot of HR companies, senior HR leaders are scrambling to get solutions where they could actually engage the employees. And once they're engaged, and in today's time, after COVID, the engagement is very paramount because you don't get to meet people in person, and how do you still engage them? So there are a few things, what has changed in last probably 2 months, and which is going to be permanent in future. So let me touch on the very first thing. What we had spoken to a lot of HRs and all, what did actually happen is COVID had just started and we just got into a circuit breaker. But before that, there was hiring, the people who were given acceptance letters, a lot of things happened. So what happens if you don't have tools like this? How do you do a virtual induction? How do you get an employee into the platform? And how do you get him onboarded into the system while not coming to the office? In fact, we had the same scenario in our office. We had a couple of people who were supposed to join us and then COVID happened. But being a technology company, we had tools in place to do a virtual induction, get the onboarding of the person done through a platform. And we could do all the document exchange, the signature of documents, everything through the platform. And the experience was very seamless for a person as doing that. So a virtual induction is something which will be something very common that we have to have in a return to work plan, because not everybody is able to come in, and how do you get that? So we need tools, which we need meaningful tools which can do micro learning, which can do video and VR, which can do a lot of personalizations and stuff like that. Apart from that, what has changed in terms of communication? As we understand, I mean, I will share a survey later where 90% of people are saying that they would prefer to work from home. So if that's going to happen, what channels of communication do we have today? Or what channels of communication do we need? That is a very important question, right? Would Zoom make everything that we do today? Or is this a temporary fix that we have till we have a solution? So that's very important. So for that, every company is different. So I would not say a solution A would work for you, a solution B will work for you. But what we have to do is we adopt the right technology, because this is going to stay here for long. So we have to start planning that. What technology do we use, and how does all this come as a unified solution, rather than we have 4, 5, 6 different solutions and then again scrambling to get everything connected. So that's something which is going to happen, which There are tools available, there are tools that we have, which we can discuss, that will be happening. Other interesting thing, or the term that we're recently talking a lot is from work from home, it's got now learn from home. So no more it's about working from home, it's about looking from home. And this has changed. And there are solutions where you could, as HR, as a company, as a leaders, you could create courses, bite-sized courses for your employees, self-created, self-curated, and you can just post it. So that's what something which has changed in recent, and there is a lot of essence on this work from home and learn from home. And the reason for that is because, I give an example, for like banking and insurances, where people used to go offices and sell a solution. Today they can't do because of the social distancing and all. Now you need to reskill, retrain all these people. How would they do a sales remotely? So there's a big need of retraining. So a very important aspect of your vision to work or a future plan would have a proper e-learning platform where it has a connectivity across the workforce, as well as it helps them learn, train. So that's very important. Like examples, we have larger companies which have leadership academies running. They can't stop the leadership academies, right? Because there are tens of thousands of people doing it. So they're tools. So basically you have to get all your trainings virtual. Things have to change. You have to have a 360-degree kind of a learning platform rather than standard platforms. So there's a lot that goes around in terms of what can be done in terms of the training and reskilling. This would be very important moving forward and today, because the dynamics have changed and people are not equipped or trained to work the same way. So how do you do that when you're not able to get them in a big classroom or a classroom-led trainings? That's when the learning and training will happen through bite size, while commuting, while at home, and getting reskilled and lead done that. So why technology is needed? So what I've been talking about for past 10-15 minutes is we need a plan, and a plan should include communication, leadership, training, learning, virtual induction. Now for HR to do that, they would need tools, they would need the technology. And once they have a technology, most of the mundane jobs will be automated. And the HR can actually do what HR is supposed to do, is taking care of the human resource, the human asset that we have, and grow the company. As long as we don't have the tools, we are still struggling in terms of getting things in place. So a very important part of all these things to happen is the HR uses the technology and makes that and leverages on this technology to move forward. So let me go on a survey. There's a survey here. So HRI done a survey with Engage Rocket, and according to the survey, 9 out of 10 people want to continue working from home. That means a very big change, to see frankly. That means the office which is full will have a 10% capacity if this is what is going to happen. So hopefully it doesn't happen this way. We're looking at least 50% of this to be correct. If 50% of this is correct, then you mean half of the staff is always working from home. And if they're doing so, if we don't have a technology and if we don't have all the things in place, then we have challenges in growing the company. We have challenges in communicating. So there is an important essence of why an HR needs to adopt technology. And if it hasn't, this is the right time to adapt, because the government is pushing is their grants, their solutions. There are about 160 technology partners. So let me just run to that to tell you, in the HR space, with SHR and all, there were 160 HRTech providers. So doing a lot of things from talent acquisition to engagement, development, talent operations, rewards, HRMS. So do tons of people there with technology which are available to help HR today to achieve a lot. And most of them are more than ready to help you in getting your return to work plan into place. That's one thing after that. So what I've done is I've taken a liberty to also come up with solutions against the problems, right? So the first thing, we talk about leadership and communication. If I talk about that, I'll talk about a solution that we have. It's called People Central, where you can, it's a perfect medium to deliver the work-related informations to the employees. Mean to say that you have a tool where you are able to send information, push information to your employees onto the mobile apps in terms of message boards, so that they are aware of the information about social distancing, safe places of communication, public health, and everything. Second topic we discussed about was social distancing. So again, SME People Central has a solutioning where you can create rotated day shifts. You can do the scheduling, and all this again is pushed to the mobile app to the employees where they have their schedule. So they know, okay, when is the shift and how you're managing the shifts, how you're rotating across, how you have this sequence set it done. The third, we talk about safe entry, temperature screening, contact tracing. So People Central again has a solution called BioTem, which is a contactless temperature screening and face recognition biometric device. So what this does is, without touching the device, it takes your temperature, does your facial recognition, does a biometric authentication, and pushes the data to the cloud. All right, so all unified. And the fourth point, which I spoke about, was virtual induction, training, learning from home. That's the e-learning part that People Central has, where the workforce connectivity and continuous learning of the solutions happen. So People Central plus Time Central plus BioTem, this is a unified solution. So all the problems that I discussed on the top can be solved by one unified solution. So I'll wrap up with that, just leaving a few screens of that. So BioTem is a contactless temperature screening and face recognition device with built-in biometric attendance and does the safe entry. And it helps you doing your visitor as well as your staff attendance. That's the quick features. And if you need more information, that are the two websites. I'm available for question and answers. And the beauty of all this thing is the whole unified system is available by support by the government, PSG and all, up to 98% of grants. So I think that's all. It's my time for today. And I think I've covered what is the problem statement and a part of solution and technology. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Project. Okay, thanks so much for sharing. Now, I would just want to highlight that later on, we will, after Alvin's segment, we'll have a 15 minutes Q&A with both the speakers together. And right after the 15 minutes Q&A segment, we will allow breakout into two different rooms so that participants can speak to each of the speakers separately if you would like to find out a little bit more on some information that they have shared, especially on some of the solutions which People Central has available, because as it is now, I think some of these are definitely what a lot of HR will be needing as you return back to work. So thanks again, Akash.
Thank you.
So now, without further ado, I think I should bring on our second speaker. So the second speaker is someone very regular, who many of you, as being our regular supporters of our webinars, may already be very familiar with. He's none other than our very own Executive Director of SHRI, Mr. Alvin Goh. So Alvin will be sharing on the topic, leading employees in the changing workplace. Alvin, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, can you see me? Great. Thanks, and just want to thank everybody for coming back to another series of webinars that SHI has put together again. And let me go into the slides itself. Okay, I think today's topic that I really want to touch on is about not only the software itself and the hardware itself that the government has actually been advocating and put it out itself, but I also want to touch about the hardware. And central to this team, it's all about our people, at least from a leadership perspective and also from a human resource perspective. You know, at times it's going to be very difficult to balance out everything as we prepare for post-circuit breaker come June 2nd itself and get ready for the phases of opening itself. And as we have heard over the last couple of days from our DPM itself, you know, they are also looking positively towards opening up the economy sooner than expected, which is somewhat of a good sign. And from the poll itself, we also noted that 33% of you guys are going back in phase 1 itself. And, over the last couple of days, my WhatsApp chat group and as well my personal emails been flooded about, is it right for me to go back home? I mean, is it right for me to continue to work from home despite the government's stand that we should continue to work from be doing work from home, but yet my employees are asking me to go back. Where is that? Is there a legal recourse and so forth? So perhaps today, let's say, I'm going to just touch about a little bit on everything here, but central to this theme, as I said earlier on, is all about our people. Right. So as we can see, post-circuit breaker measures required at the workplace itself. The government has been advocating about sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. It's about, having a detailed implementation of a safe measurement measures itself, about, the monitoring plan. And I think Akish has talked on about the systems that People Central is actually able to provide itself. And I think one of these key things is that we need to have a safe management officer. And in SHRI, we actually appointed one of the senior managers to be able to actually cut across the entire organization to manage all the employee base. I think there is a lot of questions about this, about who should I be appointing in my organization. And I just want to emphasize that you should be actually looking at a SMO or safe management officer that has got the authority to actually look through the entire organization, be it the front office, middle office, or the back office, someone not necessary from the HR community. I think, to be fair to the HR professionals out there, we've been asked to do so much, all right? Even pre-circuit breaker, when COVID-19 came into Singapore itself, we've been tasked to look into our BCP plan. We've been tasked to look into all these packages. We've been asked to look into the job security scheme and so forth and so forth. So I think on this part itself, the safe management officer need not be a HR officer at all right? But having said that, it should be someone with at least direct reporting line to the senior management or to the CEO at least. Reduce physical interaction and ensuring safe distancing. I think this is something that all of us should and continue to promote the work from home concept, all right? And WFH is not going to go away, all right? A lot of the HR community is also looking at a possible second wave of COVID-19 to hit Singapore shores. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, I think we will still have to revert back to work from home as much as possible. All right. And as I said earlier on, it's necessary to review your current workflows, your processes, your procedures to make sure that, to enable as much as possible our employees to work from home as much. So if you haven't gone and got your IT systems up to date, I think take this advantage of the soft opening. I call it a soft opening in phase 1 to quickly get the necessary IT equipment back to your employees and so forth, so that everybody can work from home. Now, I just want to talk about a little bit more about organizations here, about, the life and livelihood concept, or as what I call it also, the physical health and economic health of our people versus the organization. A lot of leaders, a lot of employers, especially in the SME sectors, are wanting our people to go back. But I think you need to manage and understand, the physical health. You must draw a line between your physical health of our employees versus the economic health of your own organization. So it's important for you to take note of that and draw a line yourself, and where is it that you want to be heading towards. All right, I'm not going to touch too much on this, as Akish has clearly mentioned about avoid socializing with colleagues. We should all itself cancel or defer all social gatherings, ensure employees do not socialize or congregate at the coffee breaks areas and so forth, right? Okay. The government itself have come up with many good apps, like for example, the Trace Together app. And I think even at SHI, we have been using it, and I think it's actually a good app. And of course, the Safe Entry Visitor Management System. Now, for those of us who actually have our offices in the workplace itself, in a commercial building itself, although your commercial building, your MCSTs would have some safe entry visitor management system, it is not that you can just rely on them, right? Again, I'm saying that even as an organization in a commercial building, you must have your own safe entry visitor management system to record all entries of all employees and visitors coming in and out of your workplace. The burden of responsibility sits with you, and the burden of responsibility does not sit with your security agencies or your building management people, all right? So this is something that please take note of it. All right, so cleanliness is there as well. We talk about health checks and protocols itself. I think all this itself could be easily found online from various sources itself. Now, this is where the hardware, the HEART, I really want to focus the talk and to share with everyone here. What is employee engagement and why is it engagement? Is it so necessary at this point of time? We, as HR professionals, we have actually all these years trying to build a cohesion team in the organization through various team building exercises, through lots of social good that we have put together to get people together, to get our employees together, right? And it's all been done on a face-to-face physical setting. But with COVID-19 and with what the government has actually implemented about safe distancing and so forth, right? How then do we go about engaging our people? Most of us who has been on the social media would have been aware of how the likes of Airbnb, the likes of some of the other tech companies that have released their people over a Zoom call within 3 minutes, knowing very well that the employee engagement concept has basically been flushed down the toilet when leaders of such organizations gone out and blasted everyone and say, oh, sorry, due to businesses unbecoming, I have to let everyone go. And it was done in such a wrong manner, all right? And if you look at some of the issues on top of our employees' minds today, the survey that Josh Bershin took from 1st April to 18th of April itself, the top of mind was job security. Second was health and being, third was family, and fourth was productivity and work itself. Now, how do we actually go about doing engagement? I think, being over Zoom itself is actually already a good stepping stone towards engagement, whereby we can do it on a more regular basis. But as leaders of our organization, we over Zoom is not about us speaking, it's about us listening. All right, and I think this is something that is about really missing in the whole entire ecosystem right now. Listening to our employees, engaging their minds is paramount during especially this situation, especially whereby we know that the mental health of most of our employees itself, having worked from home for the last 40 over days, having colleagues in other countries succumb to COVID-19, people that we've been working with for the longest time, for the last 2 years, 3 years on global projects, succumbing to COVID-19 has also brought a lot of mental stress to us and to our workforce. So bear in mind, if you're a leader of an organization, bear in mind that this has actually happened itself. All right, so the engagement sessions that you do virtually is not about for you to actually tell your employees what is to be done, but sometimes it's for us to also take a back seat and listen to them, right? So that's where the hardware portion comes into play. Now, SHI and Engage Rocket did a national level survey, and we asked these 3 main questions on stress, on current action, and future prospects. On stress itself, we asked the question, all things considered, my stress levels are still normal. And it was actually very heartening to see that the results were favorable, meaning that 36% of our employees, right, said that my stress are now at this level, at this point of time, are normal itself, which is actually a good point. But noted that there's also another 15% of people that stress levels have gone up tremendously. In terms of current action, I'm confident in the action steps taken by my organization to address the problems, right? Organizations itself are doing better, right? And we have actually over the last 42 days reflected on what needs to be done. And 52% are actually saying that we are taking concrete actions. Future prospects, 53% are saying that I'm confident of the future of my organizations, which is good, right? And I think these organizations that we poll put a lot, right, over on the last 40 over days on engagement, right? And they have built up over these 40 over days a more resilient culture in the face of COVID-19, right? And as we know, the greater the culture is, the stronger the culture is, the greater the engagement levels is. It helps reduces our stress level by more than 2 times, right? Now, some tips in terms of to be able to engage and motivate our employees after the circuit breaker. I think number one is that we need to be transparent and realistic. A lot of companies today itself have also asked us, what do we do with our performance, with our KPIs and so forth itself, right? Same as SHRI, we have a set of KPIs beginning of this year, and we are constantly trying to review our KPIs as well. Noted that COVID-19 is going to be a black swan event for everyone, or for this whole entire world itself. So I think we need to be transparent and realistic. And perhaps it's important for us to actually have quarterly reviews of our set KPIs, especially for the salespeople itself, right? Where do we go? How do I engage my clients and so forth? I can't be meeting my numbers given the current situation. So leaders of various organizations, I think we need to be transparent and realistic, right? And have quarterly reviews with your team on the KPIs itself. Second area, if your core values have brought you to where you are today, right, and you have been successful in your core values, please continue with your core values. Don't, because of just of COVID-19 itself, change your value system. Values itself are lifelong itself, and there's no need for you to change your value systems. If only when you have your value systems have not been able to enable you to actually move forward during this period of time, yes, perhaps you might want to review them. But my take is that just focus on your core values that have been propelling you towards a successful platform since the day you started your business till now. Third, make room for continuous feedback. As I said earlier on, it's not about leaders of organization sharing or talking. It's about us listening and getting feedback from the workforce, so as to be able to make better and decisions on a more informed basis. Use a survey or questionnaire, right? Especially if organizations out there who have got more than 50 staff, 100 staff, going into the thousands and so forth, right? There are plenty of there are plenty of surveys, platforms out there that one can use. Creating engaging activities. I just want to highlight this particular company that I was very intrigued about as I read. This company is it's actually a local company, if I'm not wrong. It's actually known as the Fun Empire. You can go Google Fun Empire in terms of what they've been doing. They are actually an events company. And because of COVID-19, they cannot be engaging their clients, or their clients cannot be engaging them for their services to do activities, to do employee engagements, and so forth. And they were very creative in coming out with a virtual escape room, if I'm not wrong, right? Whereby they send clues to all their employees, and employees will gather into a Zoom platform, right? And solve problems on that basis, which was actually very interesting, right? So I think if you are HR that is dealing with employee engagement activities, I think you really need to think out of the box and to look at alternative plans of how you want to do to engage your employees based on current situation. Last but not least, the celebration of small victories and recognizing your employees. I think this goes a long way to show that your employees that I'm a people-centric organization. Seventh, have the right tools in place, right? Enable teamwork and collaboration. Focus on everyday experiences, celebrating small success, as I talked about earlier on. Strengthen the atmosphere of trust. And here, the trust itself has got three components. The first component to me is about intention. The second component, competencies. And the third component is about reliability. We know that number one, from an intention perspective, all our employees are on this bandwagon with us, and they are here to work, they are here to serve, right, to their best ability. Competencies. We have, over the last 10, 20 years, invested a lot of money in our employees to develop them, to bring in coaches for them, to put them on short programs, long-term programs as part of their learning and development. So they do have the competencies. The third element, as I said, reliability. We need to rely on our employees, all right, to propel our organizations forward when the economy picks up, right? So trust is a very important aspect here, and I think I talked about it in one or two of the previous webinars. Just because as an employer, you do not see your employees in the office, it doesn't mean that they are not working. So there must be a level of trust that us as leaders of organization must have, that entrust their employees, given their true intention, that they have the right competencies, and that they are always reliable, even in this current situation, to be able to do good work. All right. Well, as I said, leaders need to be resilient and agile in the face of adversity. Right? We need to shift our team's perspective from today to a tomorrow mindset. Meaning, what does it take for us to be successful tomorrow, and not just focus on the today's tasks? Navigate and size substantial uncertainties, and take COVID-19 as an opportunity for us to grow and change. We have gone through many facets of transformation and evolution in the HR community, from just a people manager to a people leader, and right now, in these current times, to be a transformative leader. I cannot emphasize enough about data. We need to look at data and harvest data as a means to be able to make good decisions. Gone are the days whereby everything is on a gut feel basis, be it talent acquisition, be it talent development, right? In this greater scheme of our talent management, I think there are many data that sits with us in the workplace that we can harvest and use to make transformative decisions and change the organization for the better. So that's all that I have for today, and I'll be happy to take any questions from the audience itself.
Thanks, Alvin. Thanks for the great sharing. Now I would like to welcome Project back with us to take on the Q&A portion together. Just hang on. So thank you both for your sharing. So what I really hear from both of you very much similarly across the board was, really about communication, about using the use of technology, and emphasizing on leadership as well when we talk about returning to work. As I look in the Q&A that the participants were asking about, some were asking about best practices, whether there are any best practices that can be shared from going back to work. I think it's a little bit hard to really share any form of best practices now, in my view, because a lot of companies will be going back to work together actually come to June, because as it is now, a lot of the business and firms are actually working from home. Only the essential services are out there operating in that sense. And I think from both our speakers sharing today, there were several pointers put out to let which HR will be able to refer to, to take back later on in planning your work plans as you return to work come 2nd June. So I hope that really answered one of the questions as well. And now I would like to just bring up a couple of the questions that we received prior to the session. We'll just show it live, and then we'll just direct to our speakers before we answer the live questions. So the first one was about what plastic barriers are required and where to get them. Actually, we've prepared the answer to this question, which we can share it quickly. So actually, as per advisory from MOM, there are a lot of advisory out there. So in this type of situation where physical interaction is really required, there should be some precautions like that you need to take. So this is what it is. I'm not going to read it out. It's going to take a while. Let's go back to the question 2. Okay, let's take. Okay. So advance salary to workers during circuit breaker need to include fixed allowances or not? This is a very, very HR question, but a little bit sensitive. I'm not too sure whether Alvin want to attempt this or not. Sorry, Alvin, let me just unmute you.
Okay. It really depends on what kind of allowances are we talking about here. I think if you, and also the advancement, the purpose of the advanced salary itself to workers itself. I think when you advance the salary, the allowances portion, for the ease of calculation, you can actually advance it together as well. But you have to really ask the questions about, number one, why the advancement is necessary. Where is the advancement coming from? Is it being initiated by the employee itself? Or is it just because employers taking advantage of perhaps the Hari Raya period itself and to advance the salary, right? So I think that's something that you have to ask yourself. But generally, companies can advance salaries together with the fixed allowances, but it's not mandated.
Okay, thanks, Alvin. I hope that answered the question. So the third question, any right for an employer in essential services to repeatedly ask staff to return to office in the dormitory, which is an isolated area? I think this is actually a question that's related to government regulations, right? If it is in essential service, like if I were to take it on, Alvin, please feel free to add if you would like to add on later.
Yeah.
For any essential services, I think as it is now for essential, staff will be able to return to work. And if they are required, they should be going back to work. Unless they are not required and unless their work is able to be conducted from work from home, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope that really answered the question. So the next question is actually, how do you manage or design a workplace to design a return to workplace plan in a high touch industry where HR roles involve high touch moments, example, counseling, disciplinary or welfare activities? I think maybe not too sure whether Project would like to take this on. What do you think?
I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. It's just, it really depends how an organization is currently operating. Like what I said in my slides, and I've been talking, the world is changed, the world is going to change, and the way we have to do our interaction would entirely change. Where you want to have a one-to-one person counseling, where you want to have a disciplinary welfare to be done, you would not be able to do the way we used to do before. So you need to have tools, the technologies, which will enable you to get the same thing done through technology.
Yeah.
Because we cannot replace the whole process. When we're talking about social distancing, we cannot get 10 people in a room to do a meeting. We can't do it. So what would happen? We can't stop doing that. So what are the tools that we require is an important question, rather than can we still do that? So the tools are available, the technology is available. It's different for every company. So what I and Alvin have done is we've gone through what is generally the right practices and things that can be done. But every specific company, they have their own way of doing it. So like there's a high touch industry, they have their own way, but I think the technology is the only way moving forward to do that.
Thanks, Prabhjit. I think I would like to add on that, I definitely agree that if this question is coming from someone from a high-touch industry, you may want to consider really leveraging on technology moving forward, whether you could move some of this high-touch, for example, counseling or welfare activities to online platforms. Unless it's really needed in person, then you have to look at in person. And when you look at putting it in person, then you've got to make sure that you follow the safe distancing, kind of regulations which the MOM has put up. Yeah. So anything to add, Alvin? If not, we'll move.
No, as I said in my presentation itself, there's always going to be a tension right now, and about, as I said, physical health of our employees versus the economic health of my company, especially if I'm a entrepreneur who has a company that and does all this. There will be tensions, all right, whereby okay, government has allowed people for us to go back to the workplace, and I want everybody back because I'm a sensory leader, right? For example, sensory leader is someone who likes to feel, touch, see people going around the office and so on, kind of thing. So the question, as I said earlier on, as a leader itself, what is more important? What is the culture? What is the brand name I want to put outside there for my organization? And weigh the physical health aspect of my workforce versus the economic health of my organization. How do I draw the balance? I think there's not going to be a right or wrong answer, but I think there must be transparency and clarity in communicating with the workforce itself and come up with solutions along those lines, right? And to see how best we can balance both aspects itself.
Agree. Thanks so much, Alvin. So let's take a look at the next question. Okay. Question 5. Let's see. Okay, key takeaways, point 3, employee engagement. I think this is targeted, this question is a little bit more for project. So instead of HR team to brainstorm and plan for event to get employees together, would it help to lighten HR's work if insurers can provide these complementary events and HR just need to fulfill the minimum head count? Maybe I can help a little. I think this question is a little bit targeted at an employee engagement platform who is doing it. So maybe if you are looking at that, you would really need to decide which kind of platform you are going to, right, Project?
Yeah, so basically what happens is employee engagement, there are many tools out there because employee experience and employee engagement are, to be very frank, still a lot of fancy word for a larger HR community. They want to have it, they're not implemented. And similarly, there are a lot of vendors who say they have an employee engagement platform. It does a lot of things, but every employee engagement platform comes with a certain work with the HR has to do, because the platform is just a platform in terms of curating courses, in terms of creating surveys and all, still falls back on the HR, because there's no one fix for every company. Every company is different in a way. So the HR role is there in terms of creating. The platform just is an enabler. It enables you to do the employee engagement, but in terms of the other activities, still HR has to do it.
Yeah, I agree strongly with you. And I think here I would really like to enhance with what you have shared earlier. It's really true, I think, that for HR to really look at leveraging on technology, because then you can move on to more of the people-related work that we've just talked about as well, and less focus on some of the mandatory and administrative kind of processes. Yeah. So, okay, next question. How to arrange for those with no work or less than 50% work to return to office? Should supervisors also return to office to work if the subordinates or non-executives return to the workplace, while the supervisors can actually work from home, So what do you think, Alvin, if you were in this situation, how would you react to it? I guess this is quite personal, so maybe hearing from your personal opinion.
My personal opinion is that if you're a supervisor and you have a moral compass as a leader,
Yeah.
right, I think you need to lead by example. WFH to me doesn't necessarily stands from work from home. It also stands to me personally work from the heart itself. So whoever is asking this question, I think then you have to really look upon it as yourself. How do I want to lead? How do I want to demonstrate to my staff that I'm there for them every step of the way? Doesn't mean that you are a supervisor, right? You need not go down to the ground. And at times we are asked to serve with a sense of pride with our fellow co-workers itself. And there's this concept that been out there called servant leader, right? And if you haven't, and I think it's important, especially this point of time, that all of us practice a little bit of empathy and compassion to actually become a better servant leader, to actually fold up our sleeves, throw away your tie, right, and get down to the ground to help our people out wherever necessary itself.
Thanks,
I
Alvin.
totally resonate what Alvin says. I would rather say it should be opposite. The executive should go there so that the subordinates can follow up, because it's a time for the leaders and the people at the place to show. This is the only time when they can come up. This is the time they take the stage, because this is a huge opportunity to lead where people are looking at you clueless. So I would say it's an opportunity to anybody who's leading an organization, a manager, a supervisor. It's a time for them to show what steel they have. And that's how the whole company is going to move up.
Yeah. Thanks. I really agree with both of you. And I really like the work from heart concept that Alvin works from. Thankfully, he's my boss. Okay. Next question. Come, let's take a look at the next one. So before we move on to the next question, I think I would like to take on some of the live questions that have come on now as well. So one of the questions was, let's see. If we want to create a supplementary employee handbook, what are the things mandatory to include? Is there a website where we can refer to? I think to this question, I would just take it very quickly. I think a lot of the pointers which both our presenters have shared today will be able to help you. And whether there are things mandatory to include, definitely there are. The MOM site and the gov.sg site will be able to share all these requirements. Please do make sure you take a look at that. When we share the post-webinar content related resources, we will also have all these websites in there. So make sure to check it out. Okay. So another question, government advises those who can work from home should work from home. The management asks for all office staff to return to work on an alternate day basis. Is this acceptable? Now, if I can, I think I'll just take it on very quickly. Alvin, please feel free to share if you feel there's anything else. So for work from those who can work from home should work from home. This is just a generic advisory. If management requires staff to get back to office to work on an alternate day, whether it's acceptable or not, I think they need to make sure that they have obtained the relevant from the relevant authorities that the office can function, the operational office can function and staff can return to work. That's one. If that is done, then definitely the split teams, the stagger hours has to be in place, and all the safe distancing measures has to be put in place then.
Yes, definitely. I think spot on that reply, Lynette.
So I hope that answered. Okay, this one is a little bit tricky. If a company is working in a co-working space, is it necessary to implement safe entry, or will the co-working space safe entry be sufficient? Would you like to take it on, Alvin?
I think this one, as I said earlier on, the onus or burden or responsibility sits with the company and organization itself. Although you're in a co-working space itself, the co-working landlord will already have some safe entry systems itself, but you as an employer itself would also need to keep personal records of your employees, daily temperature, your visitors, and so forth, itself. So I think it's the burden of responsibility goes back to you as the employer.
Thanks, Alvin. So there's another question that's actually directed at you, but I won't attend to it now because I think we can leave this to the breakout session later. And there's one comment that one participant made that, he or she is hearing a lot of making use of technology and introducing tech HR platforms, and it seems like some kind of change management to him or her. And then the challenge, but the participant is saying that there's a challenge in teaching employees to use the platform and convincing them to be open to do it. So any suggestion from Akash? What do you think? How can this?
Sure.
How can we help this person, implement this tech services?
Perfect. It's a very standard question when we moved even from Excels into portals and softwares. There's always a learning curve. And the way the world's moving forward, and we may have challenges from employee to adapt. So when we also have done, like I would talk about even last 10, 15 years of my experience, whenever anything that was manual and we wanted to automate it, there was resistance and there are challenges. But the beauty is, right, once it is done right, everybody loves it. It's the initial resistance, everybody is going to have it because it's a change. Like COVID, right? We all didn't want to accept it. It was a change, but then we accepted it and today we are okay with it. So to be very frank, right? Every now is prepared. If there's something COVID happens again in future, nobody's going to say, oh, what is this new, right? So similar in technology, whenever anybody is adapting, any organization, I would not say mine or anybody, is the same challenge. You would have a resistance to it till you accept it. And once you go on it, then you start saying, oh, why didn't we do this for 10 years or 5 years or 4 years? We could have gone so further ahead. So that curve is there. got to be patient, have to move on to that. And once you're on top of it, you know how you can leverage that to grow your company much faster.
Thanks, Akash. I think that definitely resonates. And I would like to add on to that to help this participant. I think this is the best time to take the opportunity to implement this change because COVID has really changed a lot. Everyone has to work from home now, and you definitely need to implement all this HR technology to help your businesses move forward. And like I said, this is the best time. If not, it will be even tougher, later on. Okay. Okay, so coming back to some of the questions here, how to return to workplace safely and ensure measures are in place. Okay, this I think is definitely answered already. Engage, what's that dictated by law and what is not. I think all this will be shared on the government side, which we will share in our post-webinar as well. So engagement via learning and development. How do we do this in such times? So maybe Akash would also still like to add on to this, because earlier you shared about some of the L&D stuff which People Central can actually do as well.
Right. Yeah. So this is what we've been preaching with, I think this is a time when people actually understand or get hit with it. As like, for example, that's what happened with us also. We had signed up a few people to join us and COVID happened, and thankfully we had a platform so we could do an onboarding and all that stuff in terms of that. And learning and development is something which in Singapore, it's been pretty active now. A lot of our companies, our clients have been using it, and they understand. Now what's the difference in learning is the learning has changed from a classroom and sitting for 1 hour, because our concentration is not more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So the learning platform that we have done is we created bite-wise questionnaires and courses which has a journey, so a person can complete it while commuting from office to work. He can finish while sitting waiting for somebody. In that way it gets more engaging and you're able to do more of it.
Cool. Thanks a lot for answering that. So I would like to take one more last question from here before we move out to the breakout sessions. Some of the questions that participants have asked, please feel free to add them when you go into the breakout session. Okay, so one last question. I think this is a little bit, this is a question that a lot of people would want to know. How to help older workers who are not tech savvy during the circuit breaker or working from home. How do you think leaders or managers can actually help? Alvin, would you like to add to this?
I think number one itself is the need to have lots of patience itself. And older workers doesn't mean that they are less tech savvy than the younger ones. They might be slow to understand, they might be slow in terms of their finger movements and whatnot itself, and I think it's therefore to understand their learning agility. How people learned, how adult learners learned is very different from how young kids are learning. So a lot of adult learners, they learn best by demonstrating to them and showing them how it's done, number one, followed by a step-by-step pictorial instruction. And this method that I found in my previous workspace actually helps a lot, all right? But you as a trainer or you as the leader that is helping your a little more senior co-workers itself, I wouldn't want to use the word OLD here, but I say senior and more knowledgeable co-workers. I think this is the way to actually get them on board, right? To try, as I said, number one, have plenty of patience. 2, all right, demonstrate to them. 3, followed by a pictorial instruction.
Okay, agree with you. Thanks, Alvin. So, Akash, how about you? What do you think? I mean, People Central is a tech, enabler in that sense. So, in your work with your clients and stuff like that, do you face issues like that? How do you suggest this person go about helping their senior workers, as Alvin mentioned?
Yeah, very interesting, and I have a practical example for that. So I'll give an example for my sales team. I have a senior person about 60 plus who's leading our sales team, and other younger guys and all. So what we did is, rather than asking them to stick to one form of video conversation, we let them open up. And what we interestingly saw is, for the senior workers, they chose a platform which is much easier and simpler. So for the senior guy, they choose something called Zoho meeting. They found it easier. They were comfortable. Others found Zoom to be connected well. So what I would say is, if you have a senior workers, don't make the same solution to be adapted to everybody. You need to be flexible for them to choose what's easier, because we need to understand they have tons of knowledge in terms of delivering, but in terms of technology they may be a little handicapped at this point, but they are good enough to pick up. Like we have a staff which is 76 years old, and she always says age is a number, and we all have fun with her, and she's the person actually who joined us when we started the company. And another example, I'll give it to you. I was traveling, we had a one of our servers were down and everyone was scrambling, and this intelligent lady walked to the circuit board, opened the circuit board, flipped the switch, and got everything working, where all the technically smart people are jumping all around the server room looking at the routers and all that stuff. So the senior people are an advantage to every company. The way we looked at it is we let them have a free hand in choosing between different technologies and which is easy for them, because there's no one right fix for them. That's my take on that. So be patient. I totally resonate with everything that Alvin is and you shared till today. It's about letting them choose what they want, and a pictorial thing definitely helps, Alvin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I really agree with both of you. I really like the sharing, and that's what we do as well with our team members sometimes. And even you know, things we do, I think pictorial definitely helps everyone in that sense, and giving them a chance to pick something they're comfortable with rather than forcing them down the throat with something you want them to use makes them more comfortable and welcoming to even the idea of using a tech platform then. Yeah. So with that, I would like to thank everyone. We're going to break out into breakout rooms. Some of these questions we'll definitely still answer them, because there are a few that is actually directed at Alvin, some directed at Akash itself. So we'll answer them in the breakout rooms, not to worry. So for those who would like to speak to Akash continuously, please stay on this room. Do not leave this session. For those who would like to join Alvin's chat session, I'm going to type into the chat a link which you can click and join, and Alvin will be there, okay, with you. I hope you can see. Can you guys see it? Okay, click on the link and you'll be able to join Alvin in that chat. Okay, so Alvin, could you just join the chat? So
All right. Thanks everyone. Thanks Akash. I'll see you
Thanks,
then.
Alvin.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alvin. So as everyone leave, you'll be able to see some of the survey. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Akash. Okay, I'm just gonna bring on the questions again, because there was one question which I really would like you to address to.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nuru, could you bring on the question slides again? Thank you. Okay. Back to the previous one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So question number 10. How can technology be an enabler to help a safe return to work and save costs? You know, this is definitely a question for you to answer, I think.
This is the sales question for me, in fact. All right. Okay. So see, the technology in terms of, see, when we are trying to sell a solution or we create a solution as a company, right? We look at the same aspect as a client looks at. The client wants it. How can they save the cost and have the technology? And thankful to the Singapore government, we have them approving solutions which they think make sense. So today, I mean, all my slides have gone through, starting from communication, even for temperature taking, facial recognition, everything is possible to do through technology, and all of this available at 80% grant. So to give a simple example, even to get a facial recognition, a temperature scan machine is about only $400 after grant. So I'm not trying to sell you, I'm trying to say what's possible. And a complete HRMS system with the facial recognition at 80% is, I mean, less than $1,000, $1,500 for a smaller organization. So tools and technologies are available, and we have something which is unified. That means you need to buy one solution which works end to end, including your safe entry and everything as one solution.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think for the company itself, they definitely need to look at it holistically as well before they even decide on which solution and whatnot. Because, you know, it depends. Like you said, some may want to look from an end to end, right? And some may say that, oh, I only want a safe entry one. Just
Exactly.
one.
So
then
that also helps, Lynette. What happens is because being a tech company, right, we're not here to sell boxes. We have the solution of safe entry, temperature scanning, attendance, biometric as one device, and the data that comes from it, we integrate with your existing HR platforms, which you're already using. So we don't say that you move away, but still we give you a unified experience. So we're not a preacher that you're going to buy everything from me today. It's okay if you don't have anything, we can come in there. But if you are an established company, you obviously have an HR, TMS systems. We have open APIs. Being a tech company, we pick up the safe entry temperature scanning solution, which we call Biotem, connect it to your existing HR system. So you're up and running, you're still unified.
cool. And definitely, these solutions, as you shared earlier, actually are tappable on a lot of the government grants now, because
Yeah.
our government understand that they advocate that companies should look into digital transformation as well, which is why they are putting a lot of money into digital transformation for companies to tap on. And I was really happy when you shared that these can be tapped on the grant. They are already pre-approved. You know, it makes it so much easier for companies and HR out there to put forth to their management for approval.
Right, because even the biotime, the temperature scanning and all, which we have a crazy demand right now, uh, it was pre-approved, I think, matter of 2 to 3 weeks, which generally takes 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Two reasons behind it, because we are a vendor with them for probably 6, 7 years, they know us, and the technology and the solutioning that we brought to the market is something which is needed today, not tomorrow. So they said, okay, let's people have this systems, because when they got to enforce people to do this, it is a human waste of having somebody actually scanning everybody in the morning and the evenings when the technology can do that.
Yeah, so it is really I personally think that it'll be something very useful, right? Because if you come to think of it, it can be a little bit ironic or contradicting if we are trying to keep our employees safe, but we want them to do physical kind of testing.
Exactly.
And you know what I mean?
That's very, very funny, because probably because we are a larger company and we sell across Asia Pac, and we had this rationale with a lot of people who said, like in Indonesia, Malaysia, this is worker is cheaper. I can have somebody scanning it. I said, do you know what you're doing is? You're missing the whole point. It's supposed to be contactless. The person who's scanning could actually bring down the whole company. I said,
Correct.
oh, all right. We never thought about it. I said, because the normal conception of labor is, I think, very badly used across the world. And
Yeah.
it's funny though, because it just contradicts the whole thing. So the idea
It
is contactless.
Yeah, I love that really it's contactless, and this is something really needed now, because like you shared, you gotta think one person can bring down the entire company, and then
Exactly.
you're shutting your entire operations. So it doesn't make sense at all to save that small little cost, right?
Right.
Yeah. So now let's take a look at the next page, whether there's any more questions that we'd like to direct to
Sure.
you, before I ask the audiences whether there are more that they would like to ask. Mm, Okay, so these questions are quite technical. There are some answers which we have prepared, and we can move on to the next slide to just show. Um, so the next one, please, thank you. Okay, so about digital signatory, I just want to add, right, there are some information that can actually be found on the COPSEC services site about Electronic Transaction Act. It is actually has already been recognized, so something that you can look up to. Okay, and I would like to appeal to the participants that are here with us. We have about 70 over of you. If you have any specific questions you would like our speaker Akash to answer to, please feel free to add them. So there's one that has come up. We are 100% foreign-owned entity with no 30% local shareholder. Can we get some support from the grant if we wish to upgrade software technology? Would you be aware of this actually, Akash?
Yeah, I'm aware. Basically, what happens is all the grants right now are pointing towards local SMEs with local 30% shareholding. So the person asking this question very well knows he doesn't fall in the grant. But yes, we have two ways of working with you. One is we work with social enterprises, a non-profit. We have a discounted solution for them. So we have for foreign companies. For foreign companies, there is no support from the government. But yes, we do extend the support, because we are getting support for the rest of the things. So you could contact a team, they can help you, and what is the offering that we can give it to you in this moment.
That's very nice. Thanks for sharing that, Akash. It's nice to know that you're putting some of these resources that you've gotten from the government out there to some companies who won't be getting it because they are not local companies. It's something really nice, especially in this type of difficult times. Thank you very much. So another participant asked about which agency can I apply for the funding? Do they need to go through the agency, or actually if they engage the
We can
service?
help them out. It's through IMDA, but we help them out. So basically my team, we are experts who will help them out in applying the grant and claiming the grant, as well as getting the solution implemented.
That's simple then.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah, I hope that answered the question to the participant. Any more questions that you guys would like to check out with Akash? Please feel free to add into the chat or the Q&A box. We can answer them very quickly now. Okay, let's see. Okay, maybe this is something else you also would be keen to answer. So this participant was saying that he or she is excited but nervous about the future of workplace, you know, the new norm of working, right? So how can we go about embracing this new norm? Would getting familiar with companies with successful implementation of remote working helps? Any other tips?
All right, I know it's same for us, right? I'll give you a very simple example. When we were rolling out the solution of facial recognition with temperature scanning, and we had about 10 people from a preschool who called us and say, we're very interested, very excited, but does it work on a 2-year-old kid? I said, sorry, I have no clue because I don't have a 2-year-old kid. So he said, what do we do? I said, we do one simple thing. We come there, we do a trial run, and we went there and we run through this process, and I have a video of how excited we all were because none of us knew this is going to work. So similarly, and we closed the deal for 25 units. So that's it. So what I'm trying to say from that is it's same for everybody. Even a big company like me, a technology, we're still nervous and scared with a lot of things. But the key is to go for it. You go for it, you get through it, and you swim through. It's all about a self-limiting belief system we as a company, organization, individuals have, which I've experienced a lot of times. I mean, today is not the time, but I've so many stories I can share about self-limiting where we do it. So it's something like that. We all are nervous. Technology is always scarier. But when you get inside there, you say, what are we scared of? Is this all it had, or is there something more to do? Technology is, believe me, always helping, enabling you to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think really it's about not limiting yourself. And in order to do that, I guess for this participant is there are a lot of things that you, or if you are HR, that you can do, you know, a lot of tips and a lot of resources out there that are available today in the market that you can look into, you know, into successful implementation of remote working especially. And prior to this session today, actually at HRI ourselves, we've been doing a lot of remote working, a couple of remote working sessions about working from home, how to go about it, what kind of stuff you can do. You know, some of these tips are all available out there as well. So I hope this helped. Okay, let's see. Any more questions? Okay, one question that is really directed right at you. So I'm interested in the biometric attendance, facial TAM. Would People Central indicate the cost involved, and how do we tap on the grant?
Okay, so two things. I can either type a link for them to look at rather than doing a marketing and sales here. So I could type the answer straight where they have all the information available. In terms of pricing, everything is available on the site. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just type a link into the answer so that you have the answer to that. From there, you have all the details and contact information. So I'm going to just type in there. That's the link. Okay, sent. I've done that. So it is the link for the solutioning. You can go to timecentral.com. It's there, but I've just sent a link there, which hits to the right point.
Yeah, thanks. I've actually looked at the site. Actually, the information is quite comprehensive on the site, so it should help the participant very much. Thanks a lot. So, okay, maybe for now, let's take on the last question for Akash before we end. Any more questions? One last question. How do you differentiate your solution from others?
I love this question.
Like you said, there are so many, right?
I love this question because people ask me. I feel once I answer this, I've sold it to them. All right. Okay. The very big differentiation. Okay, it's a long story, but I'll make it very short. All right. When we started selling HR solution and the grants came in, there were about 120 companies spring up to sell HR for a country as small as Singapore. And they were doing that because of a simple reason. They were established to capitalize on grant. And one biggest difference is we never did that. We were born before the grant was born. Second, we said, all right, now we have this 120 companies. How do we distinguish ourselves from this? We said, all right, so we sat back, and when you talk about People Central is actually 3 companies at the back end. We are a HRTech company, which does end-to-end onboarding to offboarding. We have a recruiting firm, which does pre-employment. That means any HR can do from onboarding to offboarding, but we also do pre-employment. That is, our HR team can actually put people on the platform. And a third company, which is HR business process outsourcing, which also use the same platform to process a payroll. That means a larger company, you don't want to do mandate job like leaves, timesheets and all. A third company will actually do that for you and put it on site. So we are a tech company. We're not a system integrator just selling boxes because there's a COVID, like a lot of people have started selling masks. So we are a tech company. We are differentiated. We have a different platform. We have a different offering. And the beauty is, once you have this device in the office, right, it tells you high temperature, low temperature. But where we have an advantage is, once, I'll give a very simple example. My machine detects you have a high temperature. It doesn't opens the door. It can apply a leave on a back end, and it initiates a company policy saying that you should not be coming to office for next 10 days. Probably on the 4th day, you are healthy and you come. The machine says you're healthy, lets you go inside, right? But my technology would actually send an email saying, Akash was not supposed to come for 10 days. He's come to the office. So that's how we're different, because we're giving you the power, not a device which is dumb. Sorry, I hope I answered the question.
Definitely. I think that's a very, it's very interesting in that sense, the way I see it. It's basically saying that you're not basically just getting one device for the sake of having one. It's really integrating your entire HR, perspective and policy into the entire workplace, So definitely it's something very different from some of the other solutions out there, because you look at it in a holistic manner. And even if you purchase, if they were to sign up just for this particular service or solution itself, they can look at integrating it into their other solutions which they may have right currently, and use it in the entire HR space. So that's something that's going to be very helpful. I hope we answered this person's question.
I hope to.
So okay, I would not that was the last question that we have taken. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today, Akash. I hope you enjoyed the session.
Me too.
I hope this session was very enjoyable for the participants as well. So now Nurul will be sharing on screen some of the upcoming webinars or sessions that we have next week. Just hold on. So next week we have our second SHI Connects with Experts on Facebook Live. We'll be sharing by industry experts on productive longevity and how to achieve employability resilience. No, employability resilience is a very trendy word these days. And actually, the industry experts that you'll be speaking to at this session will actually be our very own SHI president, Ms. Lo Pek Ken, and the HR director of SCA from Under Armour. Yeah, so do sign up for it. It's actually, the EDM is out, and the details are actually live on all our social media platforms. So once again, thank you very much everyone for joining today's session. We hope you enjoyed yourself. As you leave, you'll be brought to a survey. We'll be very grateful if you can help to participate in the survey. Thanks again, Akash.
Thanks, Annette. Thanks, everyone. It was great fun.
Soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.